and welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, affectionately known for the last 40 years as the Money Lady, and I must tell you that I'm honored and privileged to be before you today to share with you information and resources and topics that you may never have heard before, and you may not ever hear them again, because frankly, the world is not feeling it like this. We have so much garbage information today and news and inaccuracies and all the above that you don't know really who to believe, which is why I share with people, and I've shared for years, that I am intentional about this show. I'm intentional about bringing you the level of information and the commitment to integrity and information so that you can evaluate to the best of your ability. We don't know everything. I know a lot. I mean, I've been schooled as an economist, an international economist, to look at things that other people will probably miss. But notwithstanding that, I remain totally committed to making sure you and your families have what you need to survive in the days ahead. And when I say survive, I mean just that. In my last show, we talked about war and what is war, and I have my trusty globe from when I was a child. I kept it. It's an old globe, even with old names. It has all the old names to let you know how countries have come and gone. And we're going to talk about that today. Subject matter today is, what is the Strait of Hormuz? And why should I even care? Well, I'm going to tell you, you're going to be hearing more and more about this. It's already in the news, and it's all tied into this war, whether you want to call it legal or illegal. It doesn't matter. On February the 28th of this year, the United States of America, in collaboration with the nation of Israel, attacked Iran, known as Persia, for those of you who aren't aware of world politics and geopolitics. They did. They let them have it. Boom, boom, bam, bam. And with that bombing, nothing will ever be the same. It's akin to, on some level, to what happened when Germany invaded Poland and subsequently France. It's on. Whether you want to sign a note or a treaty, or the fact of the matter is, we are officially at war. And I use the term when I'm talking to people because they're like, God, what is going on? I said any and everything because we're at war. And they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, take out your globe, your trusty globe, and turn it around and say to yourself, the whole world is experiencing chaos, confusion, and a mess, period. And should I tell you it's going to be over quickly? I don't think so. I'm just giving it to you straight from the way I learned it. When countries like this are engaged in what I call the most savage, horrific activity, destroying property, buildings, land, and humans, it's not going to be a quick, simple thing. My earnest prayer is that the American people wake up, because everybody else is looking at this on internet and on social media, and people are talking about this I mean, do not turn to your regular television station for information. There is credible information coming out of many, many venues. You're just going to have to get online and find them because they are showing everything. A lot of the stuff I don't want to see, but I have to because I got to stay on my game. And if I'm going to be of good service to you, I have to know and see for myself what is going on. And believe me, I have seen a lot, and I've heard a lot. I've heard denials. I've heard, it ain't me, man. I've heard everything. And I'm saying to you, proceed with care and caution. You may want to stay in the cave. You may not want to come out until it's all over. Okay? You may not want to talk to anybody because so many people are refusing to look at what is actually being shown in front of them. The reason being is that they do not have a context. They don't have history. They haven't learned these things. They haven't been taught these things, and therefore they don't know these things. For example, if we hate Russia, why did we give Russia a reprieve so that they can sell their oil to Europe? What's that about? And Russia made a fortune. They're like, these people can keep bombing forever. We don't care. Because at the end of the day, we're making a whole lot more money on this oil than we ever made in the past. And you say, but how is it possible? And I will tell you, with war, everything and anything is possible. So don't put on blinders, look at this straight ahead, and plan accordingly. And for those of you that are in the stock market, well, surprise, surprise, because I did tell you that something strange was getting ready to happen. And when I say strange, strange is not typical, not every day, not something you'd look at and say, oh, whatever. This is strange stuff going on. And do I expect it to end quickly? Nope. When the Europeans told the United States they were not going to send their warships into the Persian Gulf, which is where all of the oil is. I shouldn't say all, but I'll say a large part of the world's oil supply comes from all those countries that are in that Persian Gulf, including Iran for the gas, Iraq for oil, Saudi Arabia, major oil, Qatar, oil, Kuwait, oil, Brahman, oil. Yeah, oil. Right there. Major. Been a powder keg for years. Because, and I don't know how to simply put it, but hey, Saudi Arabia and those little places were creations of Great Britain. Yeah, they were. Study the history. It's fascinating how England, Great Britain, the Queen, those people, they're nefarious. I mean, for real. They're nefarious. I understand. But they carved all those nations up and put people to run them, and not understanding that right across the Gulf is Iran, also known as Persia, long history, formidable, savage, chess players, convinced that their way is the only way, and will negotiate if it's in their favor, as in a game of chess. Otherwise, they don't care. They've seen Alexander the Great. They've seen so many great and powerful men, Assyrians, all the above. And they are not to be played with. So I don't know, as we were told, it was an issue of national security. And I was like, before you blew them up or after you blew them up? Which way and how does it play? But today I'm going to talk about, and you've been looking at it on television and probably not understanding why this is a big deal, which is why my globe is out, because it is a big deal. It's a big deal about this Strait of, Hormuz. And this strait is right in the Persian Gulf. It's just a little bitty area that the ships that are transporting the oil and the gas, they have to cut through. It's not that wide, maybe 30 miles. Miles. But you have to make that turn and go by the Gulf of Oman, and that takes you into the ocean, whereby you can deliver your goods through the Arabian Sea, the Bay of Bengal, to India and China, elsewhere. And they need a ton of oil. India and China are rapid growth countries, and they need the oil for practical purposes. They're not screaming and hollering just cause. Oil is vital to the growth and expansion of these nation states. India is now the largest country on the planet. Prior to India, it was China. They're both, the two of them combined, the earth is 8 billion. You put China and India together, that brings you to about 6 billion, which means they're the largest two nation states on the globe. Okay? The United States has 4 billion people. That's not a lot of people. I'm so serious, it's not. So when you look at other countries and you look at this particular situation that we find ourselves in as of 2/28, February the 28th of this year, bombs were dropped in Iran. And not to, please apologize for my coarseness, but all hell has broken loose. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that Iran, who's the bad guy, quote, if there be bad guys, definitionally, it's the bad guy, which is it just causes so much terrorism and confusion. That's what the Western world is saying. Not everybody else is in agreement. They've been dealing with these people for thousands of years. That's how long Iran has been as Persia on the earth. And they are what they are. They now have a religious leadership, which our nation killed on the first day, killed him, and then want to know why the people were not gung-ho about overthrowing the regime. Well, it would have helped if you didn't kill the man, period, because now their sympathies are to their spiritual leader, who he was. It would be akin to you killing the Pope, who controls over 1.5 billion humans. That's how big the Catholic Church is. So this man's demise, which we shouted victory, I was like, no, you did not kill their leader, their spiritual leader. I'm not talking about political. They're spiritual. And you all know, I don't have to go deep about this, but you all know if somebody hurt your pastor or somebody in your leadership in your church, you'd all be up in arms and everything else. It's no different. People are people. And when you cross into that spiritual thing, I mean, this man, no, that was not well thought out of. But let us move on, because that should have set up a red flag in your brain immediately. It did with mine. When I got that news, I was like, no, you didn't. No. Why would you kill this man? And then tell these people, this is the time for you all to overthrow the government, the regime. Stand up, fight. These people already killed 40,000 of their people. This man that you killed. Do you think they're concerned about death? Oh my gosh. No, they're not. So, what is the Strait of Hormuz, and why should we be concerned? For those of us that are economic watchers, this is the worst thing you could have ever told me. Why does one narrow stretch of water mean so much to the entire world? Why? A sliver. When you look at it, you're like, you kidding me? What's this all about? Well, it's got to be about something, because it's all over the news. It's being discussed in political circles globally. People are wringing their hands because it's that serious. I'm going to talk about the global importance of this little stretch of land, which is the route that all the oil tankers and ships use to go into the ocean and to deliver their oil to various points. It's very major. It never closes. It's a waterway. And that waterway is a checkpoint for international trade. It is a critical checkpoint, because if those ships don't go through there, oil will not make delivery. Now, all of these ships do have insurance to protect them from loss. A lot of people don't know that. That you mean to tell me these ships are insured? Of course they're insured. Look at what their cargo is. Look at what it costs to build one of those things. If something happens, people want their money. Okay? That oil represents money. The ship represents money. The ship has employees. That represents money. And insurance companies insure this to make sure that if anything goes wacko, money is paid. All right? I continue to tell all of you that are listeners and have been watchers of my show for so many years, the power of money, which is the name of the television show, was an intentional name that I gave this show over 14 years ago, because money is power. Money, I didn't say the love, I said money is power. And people that don't have money know it's power. And people that have money are not going to tell you it's power. They're just going to bend you over and take wax off and on. But this particular situation is major. And it is major because the world, as I've said in the last show about war, the world is totally dependent on oil. From you pumping gas in your car to you being able to buy merchandise that is delivered by trucks that use diesel fuel, all the way to gas that is used in most parts of the world, and the world is dependent upon it. So whether you like it or not, nobody is going to touch Iran. Okay? 40% of the gas is produced out of Iran and goes on a tanker and is delivered to various ports based on bill of ladings. People have ordered this stuff. They're waiting for delivery. They're not looking for their merchandise to get blown up or having to pay a fortune for gasoline because the tanker got blown up trying to navigate through the Strait of Hormuz. Are you all with me on this? This is why I'm saying to you that the world is going to line up against the United States because of the dependency globally on oil and gas. Now, Iran has been a bad boy for a long time. Let's try 5,000 years. They have been doing all kinds of stuff. We, put sanctions against them 50 years ago. It didn't stop anything. They just kept doing what they do. But it did make them mad. And it's like bothering a sleeping bear. You go in there and scratch around if you want, but your days are numbered. So is the case with Iran. I'm not an Iran proponent. I'm not a USA proponent. Why? Because I'm not an oil proponent, and we have gotten ourselves globally. I don't want to lock you over, because you tell a great story. We've gotten ourselves in bed with a bad situation. I don't have an answer, because if these ships are not delivering their cargo on time, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a shortage. You're going to have price. Excuse me, please. You're going to be dealing with inflation. Not that we haven't, but it's going to accelerate. It is. And for the record, gas prices have already gone up at the pump. No, nobody sat around trying to figure it out. Gas prices are up, and they're going to go even higher if this issue around this strait is not removed. Now, what is the issue? Well, the issue is the oil ships can't get around this thing. They can't. The fear is they're going to get blown up. And what are we going to do? How are we going to maneuver through this to get to the ocean, Arabian Sea, as well as, let me look at this, the Strait of Bengal, next to India. Those are the only two exits. There's no other exit to get you anywhere, period. You can buy oil from Russia if you have the necessary assets to get it. And you're going to pay market, because the Russians are definitely not stupid. They're going to make money. Europe needs it bad. I told you, Europe doesn't have anything. It's so sad. I do understand as a economic historian why Europe is so greedy and colonizers and doing stuff, because they don't have anything over there. They really don't. Ukraine has some stuff, but they were a part of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. That's before the wall came down and everybody went their own way. But for the most part, Europe was just super smart in the area of colonizing and taking stuff. That's the story of Africa. They just declared, that's mine, that's mine, that's mine, that's mine. And I'll take all the resources, all that gold, that's mine. All that silver, that's mine. All that uranium, that's mine. That's all mine. That's mine. And I'm taking it. I'm taking it. And I don't care if you want to say it's yours. I said it's mine. And I'm taking it. And I'm sending my militia to make sure I get it. This is crazy. But this is what they did. They all came together and sat around a table, Europeans, and carved out what they wanted. And then they took it. So you've got Nigeria. I don't want to side a bar on this, but I want to give you a little nugget. You got Nigeria, which is the third largest producer of oil on the globe. Where are you, Nigeria? Oh, there you are, right there. Wonderful place to be located, right on the ocean. Contiguous on the other side is Brazil. They got a bunch of oil too, because, going back, they were both attached to each other. And then the flood came. You remember the flood where God flooded everything. You think you got floods now. They could be worse. And they split. Same thing happened with Australia. They split too. They split off and just went on down there. But I'm saying all this to say that Nigeria, who is number 3 in terms of oil, is controlled by BP, British Petroleum. What's the other? Shell. How could I forget? British Shell. And there's one more refinery operation. And Nigeria, all that oil is processed by those 3 big companies, and then it's sold back to Nigeria for market. So literally, you just shot yourself in the foot. But that's how they ran it. And things are changing very fast. That's another thing. I don't have time to get into that. This oil thing with Iran has impact and repercussions for everybody. But I will tell you right now that the Europeans, the United States asked the Europeans, could they give them 10 warships to escort this precious commodity out of the Persian Gulf, around the Strait of Hormuz, and out of that area so that oil could be stabilized. And the Europeans said, nah, we not doing that one. You got to work it out. We're not doing it. And I have had more people say, well, they're our allies. And I'm like, wait, pause, time out. Surely you didn't sleep while this whole issue of NATO and Greenland has been bantered around. And basically, the United States said to Europe, suck an egg. That's old school. We're not doing that. We protect you anyway. We didn't ask for that, and we're not doing that anymore. Work it out. And the Europeans said, I know you're not knocking on my door asking me for help when you have just thrown me under the bus, all of us, and you want Greenland to boot. This is what I'm telling you about when I say, wake up. Please wake up and see what is happening. So, if you cut the oil off from the tankers, then you are going to have a bad story. The world is going to have a bad story. Why? Because they all need oil. And if you think anybody's going to war with Iran, you got to be on some form of medication. Visit your shrink or your doctor. Nobody is going against them. They'll applaud. Oh, that was real courageous what you all did. But they're not going to touch it because there's nothing in it for them. All right? And we should have thought about that before we got involved. What's in it for us? We think about that for everything else. We don't make a move unless we benefit. Come on, this is America, a 100% capitalistic country. That money is God and money is king. And the sun never sets down unless somebody is making money. Now that's the culture of this country. Whether you agree with it or not, it is just that. So, they didn't want to touch it, which tells you and I this war is going to be a lot longer than we thought because we do not have the capacity in terms of our fleet to be escorting these oil ships for delivery in other points. We don't have it like that. And the other thing is that a little birdie told me that Iran is busily dropping mines, explosives in that area, which is if you go out there, you may not come back. Well, nothing personal, but nobody's willing to die for this stuff. I mean, these men have families, and they have leaders, and that's not a part of their game plan. So they're like, we're not doing it. So there were 3 tankers that got through. One, I think 2 of them were Indian. You say, why didn't they blow them up? Well, the Indians make them a pile of money. In terms of growth, India's right behind China. So why would you want to blow up that? You're shooting yourself in the foot. And they let it go. So 3 tankers have already skirted around it. But it does not negate the fact that the majority did not. And therefore, oil prices are heading this way. Yep, unless you're going to buy an oil tank, talk to one of your billionaire friends and say, can we ride this ship? Otherwise, not going to happen. Prices of oil are going to accelerate because they cannot get the oil out of that area. Now, are there other areas on the globe that have oil? Well, of course. But they can't meet the shortfall. That's how much oil pours out of this Middle East area. Saudi Arabia, which is the heartland for oil, provides 40% of the world's oil? Really? Yeah. You think they want to get blown up? Although it's happening. But they're like, man, I don't want to get near them. I already know what that's like. I'm not willing to do that. Just pay me and come and get your stuff. And that's how, and Iran is, again, on the gas side, I think they provide 40% as well. And so, and I don't think their ships are going to get blown up. I don't think so. Could be wrong, but logic tells me they're not going to get blown up. So, where does that leave you? Where does that leave you and I? Well, other than making sure that you keep your gas tank full, which I do every night, and I have the opportunity to see the price of gas, which I use Shell. It doesn't matter who you use. It all comes from the ground. And so whatever price you can pay and afford it, do it. But I have noted in the last 2 weeks that my gas has gone from $1.85 to now it's $3.69. And if it keeps going like this, I'm going to be a fan of online everything because I can't afford it. And for the record, neither can you over time. You are not only paying for gas, but all of the other things that are called life in the United States of America. You got to go to the grocery. We know what inflation is doing. Now you're dealing with the fact that trucks that are carrying the food have to pay for diesel fuel, which is $5 a gallon. That's here. In California and West Coast, it's much, much higher. How are they going to transport your food without passing it on to you? Because that is capitalism. A trucking company is not going to eat your loss. If toilet paper, and that is outrageous. I'm like, man, that's the wrong end. I need to be in that industry. That's automatic demand. And for Bounty and toilet tissue and all that, sky high. And those, by the way, and you may not believe it, but those are necessities. You need toilet paper. Now, I don't know about paper towels, because in the olden days, women used rags. But you'd be hard-pressed to get an older woman today to tell you that she's going to use a rag to mop up anything. Not going to happen. But I would encourage you, if you want to see what price increases look like, including if you shop at some of the discount places, Dollar General and Ross, well, look at their prices. Look at their prices. Even if they're made in China, China has to buy oil. Yeah. They're in a growth mode. They're growing at 6% a year. They're breaking records. The U.S. is at 2%. We're not breaking records. But much of the manufactured items have been manufactured using oil as a part of the manufacturing process. Okay? So it's hard-pressed. You'd be hard-pressed right now to find anybody that doesn't need, N-E-E-D, need oil. Fertilizer, yeah, to grow your plants. Oil. You're like, oh man, yeah. Wash your hair. Look at the ingredient list. It may be under petrolatum. It may be under other names, but bottom line, it's oil. So, how can you fight? Well, I'm going to be open with you. I don't think the options are very good. Why? Because oil drives energy markets and impacts on national security. For real. We have gotten ourselves into a global pickle. Everybody needs oil to function. Now, for countries that have things they can barter, we're back to those days again, which is, I want your cow, and you say, I'll sell you my cow if you give me your horse. And you strike a settlement. That's bartering. That actually is how commerce started, bartering. So, say you have 100 barrels of oil at $100 a barrel. And so you want the oil, but you got to find something they want. Okay? And then you sell it to them at a comparative price for the oil. Now, does that sound efficient? No. Does it work? Yes. Is it slow? Yes. That is why the issue of petrodollars is so significant right now, because the settling up of the oil has to be done in U.S. dollars. That's a problem now, because you're like, well, I can't count on you. And U.S. says, well, you got to settle up on these petrodollars, because that's how we want to be paid. And so that's a whole nother politic, because current administration has made it abundantly clear that if you mess with the U.S. dollar, and that was a blanket for everybody, you're going to have problems, because we're coming after you. Well, the truth of the matter is, the dollar's been in trouble. Why? Because it's not backed by anything. Period. Although the way things are going with Venezuela and stuff, it may be backed by oil in a minute. I don't know. But I will tell you this, that this issue of settling up of accounts and getting people what they want in exchange for them giving you what you want is the crux of this economic crisis we're in today. If truckers are not able to deliver at certain price points, then you think inflation before was bad? Man, you better be buying a lot of toilet paper. For the record, I'm doing it for myself. I went through COVID, and I said, this ain't never happening to me. So I have paper towel, I have tons of toilet, name brand, that's just down there, because I knew something crazy like this was going to happen, and that I would have no recourse. I wouldn't have any recourse whatsoever. So I protected myself, okay? And I would encourage you to do the same, because I am not optimistic about prices coming down, because prices are tied into profit margins, which are a function of all expenses related, including oil costs for getting that stuff to the grocery store. I just heard that Dollar Tree had a record month, that everybody's buying from Dollar Tree. And I'm like, of course, because when you don't have any money, you're going to stretch wherever you can stretch, and it has nothing to do with whether you're wealthy or not. The wealthy have budgets too. They just had more money. But believe me, they're feeling it too. They're not out here just winging it. They know that prices are going up because delivery costs are going up. So what is the answer? Well, if I could be so everydayish, the most important thing a person has to deal with is housing expenses, which, by the way, foreclosures are going up. They have to eat. How do you eat? I already told you all in previous episodes. You need to be buying some pots, buckets, something that you can drill a hole in at the bottom and fill it with nutritious dirt and a couple of earthworms. Yeah. And since it's going to be a terrible summer with El Nino and all this heat over 120, everything's going to cook outside. So grow them inside. I'm serious. I have a sun porch, a sun room that is getting ready to be repurposed. My seedlings are sprouting. And guess where all my plants are going to be? My garden is going to be on the inside. I'm not going to see all my food burn up because of a change in atmosphere. I'm not going to do that. But I'm very sensitive to what is occurring right now. And that is that with El Nino, with inflation, with this issue of oil prices, we could be looking at a food shortage by the summer. And if you want to take bets, take bets. I specialize in being right. Not because I'm brilliant or prophetic, because I am well researched. I study. When you all are asleep, I'm up. I'm looking at global markets. I'm looking at weather patterns. If it's raining in Mexico, you won't be getting tomatoes at a decent price. Forget the tariff. The tomato can't live with all that flooding. So you can anticipate what those things are going to be. But you know what? You don't have to worry. You can grow them yourself. They're easy. I'm not kidding you. They will grow in abundance and they're full of seeds, which is you got more to grow in the fall and next year. That is imperative. Food is a major issue as we look about how these things are changing with Iran. Do I predict a shortage because of all of this and the inability to get these tankers through the Strait of Hormuz? Yes, I do. And I know the pressure is intense. We got to do something. Well, tell me what? Well, we gotta do something. What do you have in mind? Okay, other than continuing to blow everything to the ground and making it a luxury resort for the rich. Really? Or are you living in a part of the country where the thought of having good soil and good food is a problem? Then maybe you need to relocate. Do the research. It's all available online. And then load your family up in a buggy and get on out of here. Okay? You don't have to be caught up in a flood if you're not in a flood zone. You can grow chickens everywhere as long as you can feed them. And they will eat anything. For real. Anything. They'll eat your leftovers. Just don't get any roosters in there because you're going to have a fight and you're going to lose. So, let's look at it. If we know the unintended consequences, going down to little things, plastic is a byproduct of oil. What is in our plastic? Try filtered water. All of them in plastic. Unless you want to try the sink or water from the spout and pray you don't live in a zone with contaminated water. Oh, it's real. Don't believe the hype. Contaminated water is right now. So you say, well, I'll boil it. Well, boil it. And what are you going to pour it in? Did you save all your glass jars that your applesauce and your apple juice came in? Did you save them? Did you clean them and save them so that they could be recycled as water containers? In glass. The best is glass, period. Rather than plastic. I mean, it can be worked out. You're a little late, because I've actually been saving glass jars. I don't care the size. It all drinks the same. But you can save your water in those glass containers. You can boil your water and pour it into jars and let it cool off and then drink it. Okay? You can also do that with your food and produce. Listen, before all this happened, the world was not like this. We all know that people learned to live frugally thanks to the Great Depression. Now, granted, it could have been worse, but I am here to tell you, we do have hindsight as a guide. People were not caught up on oil, but they were very careful about their wells and cleaning their water, boiling it. Yeah, boil your water. It'll clean all the bacteria. It will, and pour it in a glass. Chill it and drink it. Stop drinking so much soda. It's not good for you. You know that. And it's getting ready to be very unaffordable, like special occasion, like more expensive than a bottle of wine. I mean, those are the realities that are in fact taking place. Where are you on the spectrum of change? Are you adaptable? Can you understand? And now you will be watching whether somebody's going to get these trucks, these ships, these tankers out of the Strait of Hormuz. You're going to be looking because you understand what that means. You understand that corporations need oil, not just as lubricants. All that equipment that manufactures that stuff requires oil to keep the joints going. Without that, equipment seizes, breaks down, and then you don't have a production facility. Oh yes, oil is not a plaything, period. And this country is addicted to oil. Like I said, it's not just driving, filling up your tank, filling up your lawnmower, or your riding lawnmower, or all the other things we do in the form of plastic, and God forbid, and plastic bags. I don't know what happened to that campaign. I thought all the retailers were going to move to paper bags and get away from plastic, because plastic does not break down, it does not recycle easily, and it's just a waste. But because of our love addiction with plastic, well, I don't like paper bags. Why not? I just don't like them. I'm glad you feel you have a choice, because most of the world does not have a choice about plastic. They're stuck. They really are. And they don't make the kind of money that allows them to buy bottled water, which is plastic on steroids. Yeah, they don't have it. And if you go into a grocery store and you will see the amount of plastic, then you know what's coming next. And it's not fish dying. It's you dying. You are not going to be able to maintain this lifestyle. Another big area, and this is major. Most of the Middle East is dependent upon cured water through a process called desalination. And it's a process which allows them to take the water and to strip it of all of its salt and chemicals remanufacture it, and you get to drink it. Well, I'm telling everybody, if somebody blows up one of those desalination plants, that is over there, by the way. It's over in Saudi. It's over in most countries because they got to have clean water. But if somebody blows that up, then you're going to have a crisis for real. Where are you going to get your water? You know we can't live without water. We cannot, as a species. Our organs are primarily water. And we have to have clean water. So keep your eye on that. Okay? Because they transport those too on those ships. Yeah, they transport them. And if they're blown up, then you have a crisis. In fact, if any more blowing up takes place in that area where we're destroying things that are necessary because, well, they're just out of control. And as I said on my earlier show, there's a ton of people that are out of control. Out of control with their lifestyles. Out of control with their culture. Out of control. And you can jump up and down and say, you are awful. But will it stop them from being out of control? Or do we have to have a reassessment and reevaluation of all of these variables that we've taken for granted? For example, if we ban the use of plastic, which I think a couple of states have toyed with, do we arrest them for using plastic? Do we do that? Because they're hurting everybody else. Do we prohibit oil from being the first alternative and look at other options? I'm just playing this for you today because I personally am so sorry we are involved with this. I mean it, I mean it, I mean it. Because the outcomes are so limited and narrow. And we must look carefully at how we do what we do and stop being so full of pride. And I mean, just don't. We want to live. Humans, we want to live. We want to see our grandkids. We want to live. So on that note, I'm closing out today's segment talking about what happens if the Strait of Hormuz closes, what happens if we cannot make the adjustment, and how long are we going to be at war? Germany wasn't enough? Really? You all think about it. I'm Michelle Graves, the Money Lady. I've appreciated your time and hope you're thinking. And God bless you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.